Welcome to the video demonstration series. Today we're going to be doing a project with a frog pendant using the Retopology option in 3Shaper V2. To get started in the project, we're going to load an image using the Image and Plane tool, which is located at the very bottom of our solid module. We launch the tool, click on the red X, just double click to browse for your image. I'll have a copy of this image in the forum so you can download it if you want to use the exact same picture for your pendant. And just load it up. We can go ahead and give it a rough size, so we can always scale it later. So you can type in the size, or you just grab the corner, make it a nice big size to work on. You can also center or rotate if needed. And the other thing I like to do is we're going to increase the transparency so that when we're working on it, we can see through it. And then go ahead and validate. And then we're going to go into 3Shaper. It's very key that we don't select anything on the screen before going into Shaper. So just make sure nothing is selected in the tree. Launch Shaper. And we're going to jump right into the Retopology tool, located in the shaping section. Okay, so the first step is to set up our support. In this case, we don't have a support object or any curves drawn. We're going to use a plane. And it's already set to the default plane, the XY, which happens to be the same one we put the image in. But one thing we'll want to do is open up the configuration and make the plane bigger. Right now, as you see in the center of the screen, it's too small for this pendant. So you can make it any size you want. I'll just make it 50 millimeters, the same size as our plane. And then I'm just going to hide the axes and planes folder from the tree. And we're ready to start drawing in our polygons. So we'll start in the add faces mode and just start clicking in. Now you'll notice if you try to click here, my image is in the way. Let's go to the tree and freeze that as well. So now we can start clicking on the screen. Now, if you click and it's still not drawing polygons, it may take a couple of clicks to get it started. You can hit the space bar to reset your tool if needed. And then we'll go ahead and start filling in our polygons. So we can continue to draw each polygon by connecting the dots, or you can jump to the Move tab. And in the move mode, remember you can use the move to edit the points and edges and faces you have on the screen, or you can use the duplicate to quickly duplicate these faces to finish off our pendant. If you're in the move mode, you can hold Control to quickly switch between the modes, so you don't have to continually come over here and click on the buttons to switch between them. So I'll leave it on the move mode, and then if I want to create a new polygon, just hold Control and drag it out from an existing polygon. That way I can edit and move really quickly. So we'll continue to fill in the shapes. Of course, we could use our regular 3Shaper items and tools and create a similar pendant. What I like about using the Retopology option for this is how fast we can get it done. Because it's pretty much a flat object anyway, we start with a 2D shape. By drawing the mesh, we have complete control over it, and we can get it started really fast. So I think this is a good way to do these type of pendants, and you can do any sort of design using this technique that you like. Okay, so once you're happy with your mesh, we're ready to go ahead and turn this into a 3D object, and we'll finish it up. So we're done with the image in the plane. We can right click and hide it, and then just switch to our selection tool, and we'll go ahead and with the face mode turned on, just do a double click on one of the polygons. That'll select the entire thing. Or you can select one and click the Select All button. And we're going to go ahead and do an extrusion. We could shell it first and then hollow out later, but if we do an extrusion first, it'll already be hollow. I'll show you that. So we just do an extrude, and we decide how thick we want this piece to be. We can just drag it manually. Or if I undo that, we can use the the ruler to type in the exact amount of extrusion. So let's say we want this to be 3 millimeters thick. You notice when you do an extrusion on a 2D surface like that, it extrudes it up and leaves the backside hollow. That's exactly what we want in this case. So we'll do another select all, and this time do our shell on the already extruded piece. So we can choose the extrusion amount. If we want it inside the piece, we'll go negative. Outside the piece, we'll go positive. If we go inside the piece, we may run into problems around the corners and the feet and things like that. So I'm going to go outside the piece, and I'm going to say let's do maybe 0.5, so 0.5 millimeter thickness, and validate. You see that adds that 0.5 millimeter thickness to the outside, and we get our nice hollowed out pendant. So that'll save on weight. For the rest of the pendant, it's simply just using our modeling tools to model it however we want. I'm going to go into edge mode and maybe give it a little shape by using control that edge down the middle, and using simply the move tool, going to pull up and give him that ridge across his back. Add a little more shape. I'm going to go into box mode so I can select just these points down the side. Then switch back to the smooth mode so you can see how it's affecting it. It's just to shape out his body a little bit. Okay, same thing for the other side. Okay. And then finally we need to create his eyes. For that, we're going to have to subdivide a little bit. So I'm going to go right to our Split Edges tool. It's in the Edges and Vertices section. And we're going to divide up this section here a little bit. I'm going to divide across here. Hit the space bar in between, or you can click the little cancel button at the top to start a new split. And then across the other side. So this section here for each side of the eyes means I'm going to have to divide that up a little bit too, because I don't want his eyes to be touching in the center. So spacebar again and split across this direction. That's for one eye, and then split across this one. Now when we've done those splits, we've essentially created some ingons around it, which is not going to give us the smoothest model. We may have to clean some of that up. Let's see how it looks after we do our extrusions. So go back to our selection tool, face mode, and go ahead and select these eyes, and I'm going to do the extrusion. So the first time I'm going to pull it down just to give it a little bit of a cavity and let go, and then pull it up to create the eye inside of that cavity. Okay. So we get that done. We see the eyes aren't exactly in the spot we want. That's okay. We're going to move those around a bit. So it might be easier to do this before we do the second extrusion. So I'm going to undo just one step. And then in box mode, I'm going to move the points just to move these eyes over using the move tool. Grab those 2 points. I'm going to turn off back facing, so that if I want to select multiple points, I don't grab anything on the back side of the model. And just kind of change the location of these eyes to a more appropriate area. Do the same thing over here. Kind of clean up this model a little bit. Let's see if we can fix some of these ingons here. An ingon is just a polygon with more than 4 sides. N stands for any number. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided polygon. that kind of messes with the topography of our shape. So if we can split that up into quads, that would be better. So let's go into our split tool and take a look at how we can divide this up a little bit. So if I start from this corner, and then we'll just cut all the way down the sides. That's quads there. So that cleans up that side. Okay, and I want to do the same thing for any of these other polygons here. I'm thinking if I split this into two quads and then right down to that corner, and now I've got quads there, quads here, and then we just need to do the same thing here with this n-gon. And we're gonna go from that corner to that corner, and then from here across to the other side. Let's see, let's go. Across there. This is the fun part of modeling. It's kind of like a puzzle. That's looking good. And then across there should be nice and even. And then finish up that side like so. So we'll go back to the smooth model. We see the topography is nice and clean now. We've got a couple triangles in the middle. That's okay. If we really want to make sure it's all quads, go into edge mode and delete that edge right there. There we go, quad right in the middle. Nice smooth topography. Eyes are looking better. And then we can go back to our face mode and extrude those eyes back out. Something like that. You can always go in and add more details however you see fit. Thinking maybe he needs a little bit of a nose section or nostrils. So we'll do a little more splitting here. And I'm going to go right across the front. And then separate this a little bit like so. And then once again, we'll try to clean this up. Any n-gons that may be causing problems. I think we're okay here. We'll leave those for now. Let's go into face mode and select our two nostrils. And just another extrusion. This time we'll pull down on it to bring the nose in like so. And we have our little frog pendant. Okay, so next up we want to add a bail to this piece, and to do that we're going to put it across here, but we don't have enough polygons here to separate that bail from the rest of the faces. So we're going to subdivide this. To do that, I'm going to do a ring selection. So I'm just going to select one edge going in this direction and do a ring loop, or I'm sorry, an edge ring. It's going to select that entire ring all the way around the piece so that when we split and pull, we're going to use the split and pull tool. And we'll move it off to one side. That way it splits all the way around evenly. So again, we're making sure everything's nice and split evenly in quads. I'm going to do the same thing again with that bottom section, another edge ring, split and pull. Something like that. Now we can select these two polygons here, and using a bridge we'll create our bail for the piece. So if we select those two polygons and go to bridge, by default it's going to try to bridge straight through them, so that's going to create a hole in our piece. Not what we want. So we're going to use the curved mode. The curved mode is automatically going to curve this piece up. We can spread it out. It's going to create a little bridge around a corner like that. Now you see that's as far as we can go. That's an okay bail. If we want to make this a little nicer, let's go ahead and undo that. I'm going to use edit, undo that bridge. Maybe subdivide this a little further. We can do it manually. I think at this point I'm done modeling, so we can go ahead and just do a simple refine. Now we've got smaller points to choose from. We'll go and use a curve, a drawn curve, to do our bail. So let's go ahead and step out of Shaper using the exit button. We're in the sub menu, exit one more time to go all the way back into 3 Design. And we're going to do a sketch. And we'll just use an arc for the curve. So a 3-point arc. I'm going to place it here to there. Something like that. We can adjust it if we need to. So exit out of the sketch. Now we need to get back to our original edit surface that we were editing a second ago. Expand your modeling in the history and double click on edit surface. Now we're back to that original mesh we were just working on a minute ago. And we're going to choose a couple of polygons. Thinking that one. Based on the curve, that looks like the closest ones. And then this time we'll do the bridge. And instead of using curved or straight, we're going to use a long curve and select that sketch curve that we drew. That way our bail is going to follow along precisely. Looks a little thin. I might use 2 instead of 1. Bridge and select the curve. That looks like it'll be strong enough to hold. Now by default it's only splitting it 5 times. You can change the number of subdivisions there so it follows the curve more precisely. Matches the topography of the rest of your piece. That looks good. Okay. And then finally we may decide to add a little texture to the inside of the piece, just to give it a little special finish. I'm going to use my paint selection so I can quickly paint in this whole inside section of the frog. Okay. When painting, you're going to use Shift to add to the selection. So if you let go of the paintbrush, you'll have to hold Shift to add more to it. If you make a mistake and you want to remove something, hold Control to remove from selection. So I'm just going to paint in all the areas that I want to be part of the texture. Holding Shift whenever I need to let go and add more to the selection. Almost done there. Some of these thinner areas, I'm not sure if I want to select those. Those look okay there. So okay. Now if we want, we can go ahead and color code this. So if we need to select it again later, if we make a mistake and we want to go back, let's just go ahead and in our color tab, we will create a new color group by hitting the paint bucket. That creates a red color here. We'll just drag that onto the selection. So now if we unselect, we see that's all red. It's going to make extruding easier and selecting those spots easier. We can actually add our extrusion as a parametric function. So instead of just using the extrude tool, if we exit one step to our submenu, we'll use the extrude tool here, and we'll tell it to only extrude the red color. I'm going to use a straight extrusion. The pocket mode is going to be split. That way each square will extrude into its own little shape. And then the extrude size doesn't need to be much since we're just doing a little bumpy texture. I'm going to do 1/4 millimeter. If we preview that, give it a second to calculate. And this nice little bumpy texture on the inside. Looks good. Go ahead and validate. Okay. Now, if you wanted to do something similar on the outside of the piece, you definitely could. Just add a little texture to it. It's a neat way to do so using the split extrusions. You can do that using colors and doing it with the parametric tool, or do it right with the regular extrusion tool. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time in the video demonstration series.